I'm Gloria Moraga. This is the Political Woman Podcast. It's Saturday, October 12th, 24 days to Election Day. All right, let's read some headlines. From The Guardian, Trump intensifies nativist message with sweeping proposal to deport immigrants. Republican nominee holds rally in Aurora, Colorado, and exploits swirl of local rumors to push anti-immigration plan. This is from the Huffington Post. Trump drives his anti-immigration message in Aurora, Colorado. And then the little subheadline, Donald Trump spent time Friday in a Colorado suburb away from battleground states. This is from the Washington Post. Trump amplifies falsehoods about immigrants in closing appeal. As his edge on the economy fades, the Republican nominee campaigned Friday in Aurora, Colorado, promoting false claims about Venezuelan gangs taking over residential buildings there. And then finally, let's go to the New York Times. I love saying finally. Here's the headline. Trump rally in Aurora, Colorado is marked by nativist attacks. The former president continued to make claims about the city that have been disputed by local officials, including its Republican mayor. All right, what's the hubbub, bub? Here's a soundbite from Trump.
Migrants who should never have been allowed into our country. I'm announcing today that upon taking office, we will have an Operation Aurora at the federal level. To expedite the removals of these savage gangs, and I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Think of that. 1798. This was put there. 1798. That's a long time ago, right? To target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil. Who would have ever thought that a president or a future president would ever have to stand here and say such things? Who would think that that's even possible to have to do? So many things are changed in the last 4 years. But that's the state of our country now after Kamala and Joe Biden have just absolutely destroyed our country. We're a country in tremendous distress. We're a failing country. We're laughed at all over the world. We will send elite squads of ICE, Border Patrol, and federal law enforcement officers to hunt down, arrest, and deport every last illegal alien gang member until there is not a single one left in this country. And if they come back into our country, they will be told it is an automatic 10-year sentence in jail with no possibility of parole. And I'm hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer.
So there you go. And none of this is true, but he's going to round up immigrants, something he's dying to do if he wins. So this podcast was going to be about Barack Obama. I spent the day going through Barack Obama's speech yesterday because it is a speech that I could teach a whole semester on communications off that speech, because he hit everything. He did everything that he needed to do. He talked about issues, and then he talked about hatred and Trump. At the end of this podcast, after we talk about Donald Trump, I'll put a couple of sound bites in at the end of of Obama and explain why they're so good. Because he weaves a story and tells a story. Alrighty then. When I first read the New York Times headline, my first thought was, why do they use the word nativist? Why don't they just use racist? After looking up nativist, because I know what the word means, it means favoring native people. So I know what it means, but it's like, why use that word? Why not just say his anti-immigrant message, which some headlines do say that? But rather than get into the weeds on communications, I'll just say, let's just share the definition of nativist: relating to or supporting the policy of protecting the interests of native-born or established inhabitants against those of immigrants. So I guess nativist is a good word to put in the headlines, even though I'm wondering how many people even understand it. Because I'm smart, and it's like, I don't know, why is he using that? The other reason that it's odd is that, we are a country of immigrants. So it's just weird to me that Trump is using this message to attack immigrants, because we're all immigrants except for a few Native Americans. And I want to say Mexicans because, maybe I say that because I'm come from Mexican stock. That, were here when parts of Texas and California belonged to Mexico. So there are very few native people, or, the majority of people in this country are not natives. They're immigrants. And we used to embrace that. It used to be something that we embraced. I mean, the country wasn't started until, all the immigrants came here and decided to break from England. They came here for freedom of religion as well. Now they're pushing Trump Bibles in the schools. But I digress. You heard the Trump soundbite, and I'm not going to play anymore, but I do want to read, because this is serious, some of the articles of the headlines that I just read. So let's go backwards since I ended with the New York Times. Let's just read a couple of paragraphs from the New York Times on this particular story. Quote, former President Donald J. Trump escalated the nativist anti-immigration rhetoric that has animated his political career with a speech Friday in Aurora, Colorado, where he repeated false and grossly exaggerated claims about undocumented immigrants that local Republican officials have refuted. So, good sentence, good first sentence, good paragraph, because they say what he's doing, say it's a lie, say it's grossly exaggerated, and then say officials are saying it's not true. So there's like a number of words in there that say he's lying again. Quote, for weeks, Aurora has been fending off false rumors about the city, and its conservative Republican mayor, Mike Kaufman, said in a statement on Friday that he hoped to show Mr. Trump that Aurora was a considerably safe city. But Mr. Trump has made debunked claims about Aurora, a Denver suburb, such a central part of his stump speech that he took a campaign detour to Colorado, get this, which has not voted for a Republican in a presidential election since 2024, to make the case in person at a rally at the Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center. I wonder if they have a golf course there. We can get in a few rounds. Quote, During a meandering 80-minute speech, Mr. Trump repeated claims, which have been debunked by local officials, that Aurora has been invaded and conquered. In that speech, he described the United States as an occupied state, called for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen, and revived a promise to use the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport suspected members of drug cartels and criminal gangs without due process. He's dying. Trump is dying to execute someone without due process. That law, and this is a quote, but that law that Trump quotes or talks about, that law allows for the summary deportation of people from nations in which the United States is at war, that have invaded the United States, or that have engaged in predatory incursions. It was far from clear whether the law could be used in the way that Trump was proposing. All right, so let's get some background. How did this all begin? Because it began with the losers, who don't read, who, it goes deeper than that when I say can't read or don't read. It's the, I want to say mischief makers, but they're not. They're evil people who post on social media just to be racists, period. They're not good people. They are bad people. All right, so the false tale that Aurora, Colorado's third largest city, was occupied by armed Venezuelans began with a dispute over housing conditions, okay? Here's what happened. There's an out-of-state landlord, and I'm not going to call them slumlords, but I've seen the building, and, it's a slum. And they're called CBZ Management. And the city of Aurora was upset with CBZ Management over the conditions of 3 of its apartment complexes. So that's how it began. There was this slumlord, and the city wanted them to clean up this mess. The landlord told the city in July that its property managers were unable to make repairs that tenants and city officials were demanding because of armed leaders of a gang, and I'm not going to even say the name of the gang, had taken over the complex and violently expelled the managers. And then that claim was amplified by news reports and politicians, and then it took on a life of its own, like the Haitians eating geese and pets because a lady lost her cat that was down in her basement. Mr. Trump then began, and this is back to the Times I'm quoting, and I was kind of paraphrasing the Times. Mr. Trump began making it a regular part of his stump speech, even after city officials said the claim had been overstated and not true. The city put out a statement on Friday, preemptively fact-checking the former president ahead of his rally. Quote, "Gangs have not taken over the city," it said. "The overstated claims, fueled by social media and through select news organizations, are simply not true. It is tragic that selected individuals and entities have mischaracterized our city based on some specific incident." And then the city goes on to say in their statement, the city is actively deploying every legal tool to ensure CBZ Management is accountable for its properties and meets its responsibilities. Major crime is down 17% in Aurora. The chief of police and the mayor, and just me talking, have issued all these comments about how safe this city is. But no, Trump just lies again and destroys more people. God knows what this is going to do. And of course, his crowd was there, and they just applauded and roared, "Yay!" So that's the Times. Here is the Guardian. Quote, Donald Trump intensified his politics of nativism and xenophobia on Friday by announcing a sweeping plan to deport Venezuelans he claimed have infected, get the wordage, a once peaceful city in Colorado. The Republican presidential nominee held a campaign rally in Aurora on a stage adorned with posters displaying mugshots of people in prison orange uniforms with descriptions including illegal immigrant gang members from Venezuela. Trump told the crowd, I'm announcing today that upon taking office, we will have Operation Aurora at the federal level to expedite the removal of these savage gangs. That's the soundbite I played. He pledged to invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 law that allows a president to deport any non-citizen from a country that the U.S. is at war with. We will send elite squads of ICE, Border Patrol, and federal law enforcement officers to hunt down, arrest, and deport every last illegal alien gang member until there is not a single one left in this country, he continued as the crowd roared approval. It's funny, the crowd doing that and roaring approval when they live there and they know that it's not true. I want to read more on the what the right-wing, very ultra-conservative mayor has to say. Aurora's Republican mayor, Mike Kaufman, called Trump's claims grossly exaggerated and insisted the narrative is not accurate by any stretch of the imagination. And then The Guardian goes into a little bit about this gang. And it says its origins are traced back to a notorious prison. In July, the Biden administration issued a sanction against the gang, placing it alongside MS-13 from El Salvador and the mafia-style Camorra from Italy on a list of transitional crime organizations, and offering $12 million in rewards for the arrests of 3 leaders. Wow, maybe Donald Trump can find these guys and get the 12 mil. At Friday's rally, Trump played a series of news clips accompanied by dramatic music. Now, Trump's been doing this more and more in his rallies, playing videos. He plays videos of Harris at his campaign ads, making fun of Harris. So that's The Guardian. Huffington Post. Donald Trump detoured from the battleground states Friday to visit Colorado suburb that's been in the news over illegal immigration as he drives a message, often using false or misleading claims and dehumanizing language that migrants are causing chaos in smaller American cities and towns. Trump's rally in Aurora marked the first time ahead of a November election that either presidential campaign has visited Colorado. Thank God, Colorado reliably votes Democratic statewide. My libs, my beautiful libs. And then it goes into the background. This is the Washington Post, and Washington Post ties Trump's rhetoric, his racist rhetoric, and it's just pure racism, to the fact that the economy is doing better. The economy issue is fading, which I'm not quite sure about that, but this is what the Post is saying. Donald Trump is leaning into a nativist anti-immigration message in the final stage of his third presidential campaign, advancing a closing argument centered on fear-mongering, falsehoods, and stereotypes about migrants as polls show his edge on economic issues fading. The headline said, Trump amplifies falsehoods about immigrants in closing appeal. So they're saying this is the last closing of the campaign. In recent days, the president has suggested that bad genes are to blame for people in the country illegally who have committed murders. He reprised his warnings about a migrant invasion and suggested Vice President Kamala Harris's handling of border issues shows she is, quote, mentally impaired. You know what he's doing, don't you? It's so disgusting. He's saying that she's not white. So all this is related to her. It's all related to he's saying that she can't be president because she's of a mixed race. She's half black and she's half East Indian, Asian. My grandchildren are half East Asian. Their father's Indian. Grandma Usha is from India, a woman I love. She is my grandma in arms. She's the good grandma to I'm the bad grandma. Trump held a rally in Aurora, Colorado on Friday after repeatedly promoting false claims. He said an influx of violent Venezuelan prison gang members have invaded and conquered and blamed Harris for importing an army of illegal alien gang members and migrant criminals from the dungeons of the third world. Wow. I should have started with this story because this story's good. This is the Washington Post. Local officials, including Aurora's Republican mayor, Mike Coffin, have said the claims are false and grossly exaggerated. Standing before signs that read deport illegals now and end migrant crime, Trump said the United States is occupied by a criminal force. If elected in November, Trump said he will launch a deportation program, Operation Aurora, under the Aliens Enemies Act of 1798 to dismantle illegal immigrant criminal networks operating in the United States. That law was last invoked during World War II to intern immigrants of Japanese, German, and Italian descent. That's a quote from the Washington Post. And I will just say, one of the many dark times in U.S. history when we did that. Democratic leaders in Colorado, including Governor Jared Polis and Senators Michael Bennet and John Hickenlooper, held a news conference ahead of Trump's rally on Friday, criticizing the former president for spreading false claims about Aurora for his own political gain. Donald Trump has invited himself to Aurora to do what Donald Trump does best, which is to demonize immigrants, to lie, and serve his own political purposes. And we can't let him divide us anymore, Bennett said. Polis said Harris would fight for communities like Aurora and not try to tear them down for a political stunt. Trump attacked Polis by name during the rally, calling him weak and ineffective. And then the Times goes on to write quite a bit more, and I'm going to read it because I think it's really important. Illegal crossings at the U.S.-Mexico border are down significantly this year after the Biden administration imposed sweeping restrictions on asylum. And most experts say that immigration has boosted the U.S. economy, and that is a fact, Jack. But polls show, because people only watch Fox News and they don't get both sides, but polls show Trump has a clear advantage on the issues of immigration and border security. And the former president and his allies are waging that false and exaggerated claims about migrants will excite his base and propel him to victory. That's why they're doing this. That's it. Nothing else, no other reason. Trump has reiterated several of his false claims about immigrants during a rally in Reno, Nevada, late Friday, including showing a montage of news clips of migrants in various cities who have been arrested on criminal allegations. And he repeated that America is an occupied country. Trump's critics are alarmed by his tactics and warn that they stoke racial divisions and fear of migrants. And this is a quote. He doesn't even respect us. Marcellus Sandoval, 39, a unionized Las Vegas hospital worker who was born in Dallas and grew up in Mexico, said in a recent interview when asked about Trump's rhetoric, "It's just so much hating against immigrants. It's dangerous, so disrespectful." His base, however, is elated. And it quotes Trump, and then it says the crowd roared, "Trump, Trump, Trump." They cheered, offering the loudest standing ovation when he promised to deport immigrants, put them in camps. He has said undocumented immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country, that something right from Adolf Hitler. He made the false claims about migrants eating pets in Ohio. His ads mention immigration frequently, refer to migrants as illegals. Not all migrants are illegal. And his ads include ominous imagery of people flooding the U.S.-Mexico border. Why? There's nothing I can say. But I will end with a soundbite of Obama talking about why anyone would believe Trump. Obama laid out the case for Kamala Harris in his speech. And I was going to use so many different bites, and I can't do it, though, because this is more important. So, Obama doesn't understand why people are falling for Donald Trump's lies. He used the phrase he didn't care about his vice president, the "so what" line, when he was told that Vice President Pence was being threatened. He said, "So what?" If he didn't care about his vice president, why would he care about us? And on and on and on. I, too, like Barack Obama, I don't believe that this race is so close, that this race is in a virtual dead heat, that she's tied with him, that statistics show that black men don't want to vote for her. I know in my heart people here don't like women leaders. I was stunned when Hillary lost, and then I read up on it. I read a lot. It was the only way I could keep from going crazy. And it's like, we're backward here. We're not enlightened. Women, we're treated like second-class citizens. And, look at all of the evidence all around. And I just don't think people want to vote for her because she's a woman. And I don't think people want to vote for her because she's a woman of color. And what does that say about us? It says that we haven't evolved at all. I'm with a Barack Obama. What? I don't get it. Hopefully, I'm wrong. Hopefully, I'm so dead wrong. And that our young people, I implore you, are going to get out and vote like they've never voted before. And that black men will surprise us because of their mamas. I don't know. I don't have much hope. And when I look at this guy, I have fear in my heart. I have trouble sleeping. All right, enough of that. I'm Gloria Moraga, political woman. I leave you now with a few words from former President Barack Obama. What a man. Please subscribe. Please follow me. Please be safe.
I mean, it used to be we'd have arguments about tax policy or foreign policy, but we didn't have arguments about whether you should tell the truth or not. We didn't make excuses for people who just violated basic norms of treating people fairly and with respect. I mean, just last week, I talked about this. We had one of the deadliest hurricanes in American history. Beautiful town of Asheville, North Carolina, one of my favorite places in the country. Spent time there, amazing people. Devastated. Hundreds of people killed. And President Biden and Vice President Harris were down there meeting with local officials and comforting families, asking how they could help. And Donald Trump at a rally just started making up stories about the Biden administration withholding aid from Republican areas and siphoning off aid to give to undocumented immigrants. Just made the stuff up. Everybody knew it wasn't true. Even local Republicans said it was not true. And now the people of Florida are dealing with another devastating storm. And I want you to watch what happens over the next few days, just like the last time. You're going to have leaders who try to help, and then you have a guy who will just lie about it to score political points, and this has consequences. Because people are afraid, and they've lost everything, and now they're trying to figure out, how do I apply for help? And some of them may be discouraged from getting the help they need. The idea of intentionally trying to deceive people in their most desperate and vulnerable moments. And my question is, when did that become okay? I'm not looking for applause right now. I want to ask Republicans out there. You know, people who are conservative, who didn't vote for me, who didn't agree with me. I had friends who disagreed with me on every issue. When did that become okay? Why would we go along with that? I mean, if your coworkers acted like that, they wouldn't be your coworkers very long. If you're in business and somebody you're doing business with just outright lies and manipulates, you stop doing business with them. Even if you had a family member who acted like that, you might still love them, but you tell them you got a problem. And you wouldn't put them in charge of anything. And yet, when Donald Trump lies or cheats or shows utter disregard for our Constitution, when he calls POWs losers or fellow citizens vermin, people make excuses for it. They think it's okay. They think, well, at least he's owning the libs. He's really sticking it to them. It's okay as long as our side wins. And by the way, I'm sorry, gentlemen, I've noticed this especially with some men who seem to think Trump's behavior, the bullying and the putting people down, is a sign of strength. And I am here to tell you that is not what real strength is. It never has been. Real strength is about working hard and carrying a heavy load without complaining. Real strength is about taking responsibility for your actions and telling the truth even when it's inconvenient. Real strength is about helping people who need it and standing up for those who can't always stand up for themselves. That is what we should want for our daughters and for our sons, and that is what I want to see in a president of the United States of America. And the good news is that you have candidates to vote for in this election that demonstrate that kind of character, who know what real strength looks like, who will set a good example and do the right thing and leave this country better than they found it. So, Pennsylvania, that is the choice in this election. It's not just about policies that are on the ballot. It is about values, and it is about character. So whether this election is making you feel excited or scared or hopeful or frustrated or anything in between, do not just sit back and hope for the best. Get off your couch and vote. Put down your phone and vote. Grab your friends and family and vote. Vote for Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States. Vote for Tim Walz as the next vice president of the United States. Vote for Bob Casey and this whole incredible Pennsylvania Democratic ticket. Help your friends and family members and neighbors and co-workers do the same, because if enough of us make our voices heard, we will leave no doubt about the election outcome. We'll leave no doubt about who we are and what America stands for. And together we'll keep building a country that's more fair and more equal and more just and more free. That is our task. That is our responsibility. Let's go do it. Thank you, Pittsburgh. Thank you, Pennsylvania. Let's go vote.